wouldn't be the first time that we hear Sheikh Gumi make certain allegations, but yesterday's was a kind of renewed call towards what insecurity is doing to Nigeria. Gumi said he's aware that the government, the federal government precisely, is aware of the identities and locations of terrorists in Nigeria. According to him in that interview, he said he goes with the government to negotiate with these people, but however, the federal government lacked the technology or power to find them. I find it rather contradictory because you go to negotiate with these people and then you say the government lacks the technology to find them. But of course, we'll make sense of all of those. Also yesterday on Daddy Freeze's live. Yesterday on Daddy Freeze's live, Daniel Bwala went on another rampage, another show of shame, I'd call it. I'm going to play the audio of the things he had to say yesterday, and a lot of persons are asking, must you really say something, Daniel? I don't know if he was frantically grappling for every opportunity to redeem his battered image, but sometimes silence would always do better than actually saying something and saying what some persons have termed nonsense. Welcome to the Polity. Good morning to you. I am Chisom Chinedu. Franklin Ebuka is here. Dr. Tony Lisambeki is here as well. Let's take a listen to this and then the conversation will continue.
Obasanjo called me. I was in London. President Obasanjo was in Hilton together with Dati, Peter Obi, and two other stakeholders. Papa Obasanjo called me. I picked the call. I didn't know who it was. So while he was talking, I said, "Who is that?" He said, "My name is President Obasanjo." I said, "Oh, Daddy, sorry." He said, "I'm calling you to come and join me in building a team." At that time, Baba Obasanjo was denying that he was behind Peter Obi's agenda. Peter Obi approached me to work for him, and I refused. Ambassador Omuche also was the person who was sent to begin the prep. And the day they called me, it was that man's phone that they used. In fact, at that time, they thought I was going to go to Peter Obi because when you live on the ground of Muslim ticket, PDP at that time, the candidate was a Muslim. So they thought naturally, this guy is a bigot, he will go to a Christian candidate. And when I didn't go, then obedient people started abusing me.
And this is a part of what he said yesterday. There were other things that he said in that interview. This is just the one that has made the most of, has gotten the most attention because he mentioned Obi. And you know, a lot of persons are actually very particular about Obi. They go personal when you try to malign Obi in any way. But what some persons have asked is, what's so special about Obi calling you, and what does that change? Anybody can call anybody to work for them, and it's okay if you do not want to work for them. Does that change the fact that you say something today and you go ahead denying it the next day? As a matter of fact, when I saw that video, I just said, Daniel Bwala is simply because the one he said on Al Jazeera when Mehdi was Hassan interviewed him has not even been totally forgotten about. As much as Nigerians are moving on, you go to social media spaces, so many other things are trending. He would have just sat this one out instead of trying to, model or be into this his desperate attempt to launder his image. Of course, we also are aware of the court judgment. As I know, the convention of the PDP held in Ibadan last year. Unfortunately, it has left the PDP further disorganized. So we understand there's going to be a reconciliation committee set up. All of those would make sense of today. Franklin, good morning to you.
Good morning, Chisom. Good morning to everybody listening to us. It's glad for us to have this very program today. And like Chisom mentioned, that there are lots of developments in the polity, but for me, I'm going to start from the home front here, where that very protest being organized by some concerned persons against First Power and the EDC, scheduled for March 14, is still gathering some steam, despite the fact that moves were being made to see that that doesn't happen. But the conveners are not actually budging. They are insisting that the essence of that very protest is to bring to the fore the challenges of Nigerians, mostly people who are in the southeast Anambra state, who have going through hardship because of non-supply of power to them. And in the midst of this, the EDC and the First Power have not in any way, tinkered with the tariff or even the estimated bill that they send to this very customer. So that is still getting some attention from the Anambra home front. Then talk about what happened yesterday in Newi. We are students of Nnamdi Azikiwe University Teaching Hospital, School of Nursing and Midwifery. They went on protest yesterday, and that protest was peaceful. It happened around Newi, and their angst or the anger was against what they call the outrageous increment of their school fees from 90,000 naira to 580,000 naira. And they were saying that it was too astronomical, it was outrageous, it was inconsiderate, given the fact that many of them might not be able to pay that if that comes to play. And from what we have gathered from the management of the institution, they said that they have a new board, and that very new board proposed that the tuition fee be increased to 580,000 naira, and university management approved. But where I didn't get it correctly, or not correctly, where I didn't get it very understandable is the fact that the same school management is saying that there is still room for consultation, that they are going to consult with the stakeholders, the board, the students' union leadership, and see how they are going to review that very tuition fee, which has been approved already. And guess what? Yesterday, I also saw a reaction coming from the student union government or that very institution, saying that it was unaware of the protest, trying to disown that very protest. And I was not asking myself, what is the essence of student union government in higher institutions, if not to protect the interest of the students, whereby there was a protest by students, and then student union government came out to say that it wasn't involved. And decided to disown that very protest. So does it boil down to the fact that everybody has been captured, even in universities where you now have the union government, being led by people who are handpicked by the government? And then you talk about some of the developments. There's one story that has been, out there. It happened in Ebonyi State. I think I spoke about it. Was it on Monday or Tuesday, where the APC spokesperson in Ebonyi State was allegedly involved in a kidnapping case, and that has been on there because for now we've been thinking that there could have been something that will absolve him, but he's in detention, and it speaks volume if people who are connected to power, get involved in issues of kidnapping, and then how safe are we in the country? So there are other developments we're going to look at by the time we get into this very conversation proper. So I ask you to, stay with us as we begin looking at the headlines in the papers.
Frank, did you by any means see this story that Anambra North Stella Odua is coming back to be on the ballot?
Well, yes, I saw that. It's not just Stella Odua, but from what I've seen so far, there are projections of people who will likely vie for the Anambra North Central District, and the name of Primus Odili he's been there out there in the media. Alex Subiobolu he's been there in the media, and then Stella Odua he's been out there in the media, and three of them are of Abga stock. But from what I understand, it's like Dr. Alex Subiobolu is being favored by maybe people who are within the circles of government, because I think people who are in government who have been pushing his aspiration. So by the time election is ripe, or by the time the primaries are ripe, because I know it's going to begin from next month, of course we're going to see how all of them are going to test their metal. Well, if Abuga is going to use the conclave they have been using, of course, in that very case, whoever is favored by the government is going to get that. But it's going to be an open thing, then that becomes a contest. But one thing I know is that whoever that emerges from the Abuga primary is likely to square up again with the incumbent. Talking about Dr. Tony Nwoye. And maybe some other persons who might spring up in other parties like what they call again, the APC, and some other parties we have in Anambra State.
All right. Also, a word on the street is that a baby was found in a carton somewhere around MCC this morning. I wouldn't know what would necessitate such wickedness, but I'm hoping that something is done about that. I mean, properly taken care of and not just, thrown into the refuse. And it's a decomposing body regardless. It's going to be constituting some kind of environmental hazard, and unfortunately it would also affect human health as well. Dr. Tony Alisambeki is here. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, Chisom Chinede. Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, the good people of Southeast. Good morning, Ndi Anambra, Ndi Onitsha, Ndi Osumoho, Ndi Afia, Ndi Olwaka, Ndi Oloyibo, Ndi Nanye Foboda Nanya, the commuters, the transporters, and the security agents, everyone, the essential service providers in different professions. We know many of them. We acknowledge all of you. We thank God Almighty for His grace, for His love, for another day. Today being Wednesday, the 11th today in the month of March in the year 2026. It's a marvelous day in our eyes. We are back in the sanctuary to profess the truth, as always, to uphold it and at the same time to preserve it. When we guys were talking, I thought that somebody would talk about what happened last night during the Champions League game, especially Tottenham against Atletico Madrid, where Tony Kinski was subbed around 17 minutes, where he had made 2 errors leading to goal. And you can imagine that had a father. His father is also a great goalkeeper from Czech Republic. But even when Diego Simeone was saying that they were never favorites before that very game, and you know what, that Tottenham came fourth during the league phase, and they came to playoff. And I saw who the favorites were. But it was a thumping yesterday. Igor Tudor. Everybody's actually looking upon you. What is really going on at Tottenham? Don't mind me, we are not talking about sports. We are back here to talk about politics, what is going on in Nigeria. And then it's very, very saddening to learn that a child was found inside a carton. I thought these things belonged to yesteryears. I never knew that in our own time things like this can happen. It's very disturbing. And we know very well that the Ministry of Women Affairs should do something about this. How would a supposed mother cage a baby in a carton, dump it by the roadside?
Baby is dead.
Can you imagine that?
Yes, that's what I heard. It's already dead.
Very, very. The person who may have done this is a murderer. I don't know the kind of heart we human beings. If you know you can't take care of these babies, what happens to motherless babies' home? Or take it there. Well, it's really, really sad now. I don't know if there's anything that can be done to trace whoever that may have done that. The person should not escape the full weight of the law.
Absolutely.
The person should not. MCC, could it be from Awada, could it be from Otabo, could it be, where could this come from?
Anywhere, actually.
It is very, very disturbing. These are things we wouldn't want to hear at this present time. Mistakes may have been made in the past, but there are ways to manage mistakes. It's important. It's important. You're welcome. Sit back and enjoy the program.
All right, and we're going to start off by telling you what the front pages of the papers say. Right after that, we get into the conversation proper. On our desk this morning, we have Daily Sun, The Punch, Vanguard, and The Guardian newspapers. And to let you know, we're live on Facebook. Our handle is Udala Radio 104.7 FM. There is a video. Drop your comment right under it. And of course, like, follow the page, and share. The major story on the Daily Sun newspaper here: U.S. flags planned attacks on its facilities in Nigeria. This is on page 26. Appeal court judgment, PDP leaders weigh options on pages 6 and 26. Again, say reconciliation must be based on principle. Weaker men step up, a plan for a national convention. Please make breakthrough in hunt for killers of Ebony Monarch. Arrest mastermind on page 5. We understand that somebody related to the APC in that state, Frank, what's it you called it?
The state publicist of APC. Simbad, Ubuatu, because I think that was what I was talking about, saying that, it beats my imagination, whereby we have people who are connected to power, who somehow, go in bed with people who have been perpetrating some nefarious activities, just like Okundi Bondi Kudatna. Because that's what it seems. From the report is saying that an account number that was provided for money to be sent for the kidnappers to buy drugs for the late monarch was traced to him. And so when he was arrested, he confessed that, of course, the account number was provided by him, but he never knew that it was going to be used for collection of illicit fund.
So what was it he provided his account number for?
So the thing is this: by the time the police must have completed their investigations, they will be able to review his connection, whether he's deeply connected or just on the surface level. But the good thing is that the governor of the state is not in any way, blocking anything or trying to intervene. In fact, he was even the one who gave the go-ahead order by the police that they should go ahead and arrest him, and then ensure that the investigation is carried out to the letter. So let's see how that very story, that event is going to end. There's one guy who has been, championing this very cause on social media. Trying to remember his name. The guy at a point in time said, because the guy was actually gloating after he was arrested. He said that the guy at one point in time told him that he was going to kill him. So
Simba did.
Exactly. So with what just played out now, he's been speaking out, saying that he's been justified, that he has had this very suspicion that he was involved in certain kind of thing, but he couldn't explain that then. So that's what the story is about.
All right, then we keep our fingers crossed, hoping that in the coming days, all of the facts found out during the investigation would be made bare to the public. And also, this should be a set of warning to people who just give their account numbers. Oh, send your account number. Get person one pay money, give me. That's how they say it in the street, and you just send your account number. Yeah, being as a man, you want your 10% commission. You better be careful. Gumi accuses FG of knowing terrorists on page 6. Reviews how he goes with military police to negotiate with insurgents. On page 27, Tinubu orders quick rollout of 100,000 CNG kits to ease fuel increase pressure. They're still on this. The same CNG kits that were promised when fuel subsidy was removed. And how many years down the line? Almost 3 years later, we are still talking about CNG rollout.
The thing about Nigeria is that Amaron Kemelaye Meko, not just what we have come to learn, because we see governments roll out policies upon policies, and some of these very policies, when you look at them on the surface level, they look so good. They look as if it's well intended, of course. But when it now comes to implementation, I know that when the government launched this very CNG thing, it was in the aftermath of the removal of a petrol subsidy, and they said it was going to help to reduce the attention on petrol. Because if you're going to have a CNG powered vehicles on the road, of course, it's cheaper to commute with these very CNG buses, and then it's cheaper to even buy a kg of CNG and what have you.
I think it was sort of 300 plus when it was initially initiated.
But as it stands now, we have seen that we have not made any reasonable progress in this, because I can't count the number of CNG buses we have on the road. I'm
not sure that these conversion centers are even spread across the country.
No, I recall it just in few places.
In few places, absolutely. I remember when I spoke to one of the persons in charge of one of the this initiative, and she said that for starters, the cylinders have to be imported, because the locally fabricated cylinders we have here cannot keep CNG. CNG is not kept in any cylinder that has any what I call it joining, for the want of a better word. And so the question is, have we had 100,000 CNG kits in stock somewhere in Nigeria, and we have not rolled them out? What is stopping the rollout? What is stopping the setup of conversion centers across the country?
My concern is even that at this point we're still talking about putting out the conversion kits, not even having the centers across the country. Because one thing is this: most petrol stations we have in Nigeria do not have CNG, pump. They do not have that because we have never used that for commercial purpose. Really. So this time around, what it simply means that we need all the infrastructure that are going to support this. But at this point, we're talking about rollout of kits that can help those who those who have petrol-powered engines for them to convert. So if we're still talking about conversion and don't even have the vehicle, so are we making progress in this very area?
We don't even have means of even buying the CNG. Convert vehicles, where would they buy CNG from? Interesting times. Enugu Air gets AOC in record time, targets regional flights by year end. Price relief fades as Dangote cuts petrol by 100 naira. Trump threatens harsher strikes if Iran disrupts supply. There was a report yesterday that how was it put now? Any country that is able to chase out U.S. envoys will be able to have their oil passed through the Strait of Hormuz.
Yes, it was like a promise. Okay, let me say it was should I call it the promise that was made by Iran? They made this very promise to Gulf countries that if any of them is going to turn back the foreign envoy of U.S. and Israel in their countries, that are going to allow them passage. But the thing is just like it's a war.
It's a bait.
Of course, once you're in a war, all the parties are trying to deploy everything within their means, whether they are winning or losing, to keep the war afloat. But the thing is this: somehow Israel and the U.S., of course, they are getting the upper hand in this whole thing. And like Trump said, I don't see this very war, lasting so long, because if it lasts more, Iran stands a chance to be decimated. Okay, so look at the headlines we have on Vanguard newspaper. And the big story there says Middle East war, crude drops to $88 per barrel. Dangote cut price to 1,075 naira. The story is on page 5 with some riders. Trump says war to end soon. Iran vows continuation of missile attacks. Depot owners, oil marketers remain adamant. Expect depot filling stations adjustment later, expert. Then US-Iran conflict could hit emerging market economies, Fitch warns. Another story says insecurity protests rock Ondo Oyo as youth block highway with corpses. The story is on page 10. Another story says CBN set new anti-money laundering standards for banks on page 6. Why some groups are after me, ex-IGP Obotokun. The story is on page 7. I don't know whether Obotokun is trying to sound like Daniel Bwala. Of course, we know how he was put out of office, in as much as we are made to believe that he resigned. But of course, we know that he was forced to leave the office. But I have seen him talking to the media, trying to say that people he stopped from doing illicit things were after his life. Then we'll talk about another headline here that says appeal court verdict deepens PDP crisis as rival camps set separate BOT meetings. The story is on page 8, and this is in contrast to the headline we have on Punch, which is talking about two camps trying to see if they can have a compromise. It's either they have a unity convention, or they set up a compromise caretaker committee so that they can list reconciliation. Government knows terrorist identities, locations, Gumi. That story can be found on page 25 of Vanguard newspaper. So these are the headlines on Vanguard.
On the Punch newspaper, banner headline here is appeal court fallout. PDP governors, Wike camp move to open reconciliation talks on page 2. The riders, warring blocs may hold peace talks soon as the deadline nears. Saraki PDP chiefs plan truce joint caretaker committee ahead of March 31 convention. Governor's camp says court judgment clears path for party reset rebuilding process. India, others rejecting Tinubu's envoys over tenure policy on page 20. FG weighs policy tweaks as Middle East war lingers on page 21. Dangote now supplies 92% of petrol as FG pauses imports. That's on page 2. Iran-US war, filling stations sell above 1,200 naira per litre despite Dangote petrol price cut. And then you'd find some other stories. Gombe deploys 700 forest guard recruits for training in Oshun. CBN extends anti-money laundering compliance deadline for banks on page 21. Anxiety as patient girls missing after leaving Lagos hospital on pages 4 and 5. And finally, Lassa fever kills 99 cases near 2,000 on page 8.
Okay, I will go back to the Geden newspaper. The big story there says party politics. APC's 31 of 36 states narrow options. Multi-party contest in 2027. A PDP caretaker committee celebrates appeal court verdict validation. The story is on page 3. So the caretaker committee, I don't know why they're celebrating this, because the court did not recognize the committee as a valid party leadership. So I don't know why they are celebrating this. Banks mandated to activate anti-money laundering systems. The story is on page 15. Other story says Dangote, Rabiu, Adenuga, Udala dominates Forbes 2026 rich list. Another story says Africa has highest aviation accident. IATA declares, page 5. FG knows name, location of every terrorist, Gumi alleges, on page 3. Middle East crisis, UNCTDA warns of fresh fiscal pressure on Nigeria, others, on page 5. Customs intercepts undeclared foreign currencies at Kano Airport, on page 30. LG rolls out CNG kits as petrol diesel spending nears 3 trillion naira in March, on page 6. And the last story says Customs seizes 13 containers of expired drugs worth 6.38 billion naira at Apapa Port. What a massive one. The story is on page 7. So these very drugs, were they imported expired, or they expired at the port? Maybe we can learn more from this later.
All right, then we're starting off the conversation now proper. So Tony, let us start off with what's happening with the PDP. Of course, we understand that the internal crisis in the PDP has been on since 2023 after the fallout of the presidential election of that year. And it has largely revolved around tensions between party leadership and allies of Nyesom Wike and former governor of Rivers State and the current minister in the government of President Bola Tinubu, talking about Minister of FCT. We understand that before now, Wike led a group of governors, the G5. They were, would I say, very opposed to Atiku being on the ballot because of a couple of issues. Talk about where the then chairman of the party was from. I'm trying to remember his name now. And all of the Iyacha Ayu, that's his name. And all of that crisis spilled post the 2023 election. Last I checked, the PDP has about 3 or 4 governors left in the party. If I'm not mistaken, out of the 36 governors, there are 32 already. Well, the PDP has only 2 left. Only 2 left. Quite interesting times. So from having majority, we are having only a few governors left in that party. Well, speaking on what's happening within the PDP presently, after they went to the appeal court, today is Wednesday, on Monday, the appeal court said the convention of 2025 shouldn't have held in the first place. The Turaki faction is saying they are going to go to the Supreme Court, according to reports that emerged day before yesterday from the spokesperson of that faction. Their legal counsel has been informed to proceed to the Supreme Court. But we also understand that there could be reconciliation happening, and there could be moves made to harmonize the caretaker committee, or even hold a unity convention, which will be aimed at helping the party prevent collapsing. The question now at the center of everything is whether this will be possible, going by the fact that the person who has stood firmly at the center of all of this conflict works for the APC, Tony.
That is the issue. I had wanted to mention that, but since you have first mentioned it, is part of the whole arrangement. If you are musing either reconciliation or whatever you call it, the question is, are we on the same project? Are we on the same agenda? You must be on the same agenda maybe the internal conflict, you can see how you can manage it. But when you are obviously and conspicuously on different agenda, what is the reconciliation there for? And recall very well that in that very judgment that appeal courts made, it also emphasized that the party has power to discipline its own members. I could recall that the PDP convention, though the expulsion of Wike and other members of the party was done during that convention. The convention that was held in Ibadan, Oyo State, where delegates voted to expel him and several other members of the party as a result of alleged anti-party activities and internal conflict within the party. I think it was on November 15, 2025. But the outcome of that very convention has been nullified by appeal court. That's where we stand today. And the PDP faction led by Turaki is challenging the judgment of the appeal court. I don't know why Wike is so much bothered that they should not go to Supreme Court. They should come so that they should find a way to move forward. Why is he afraid of or really concerned that they should not go to Supreme Court? I looked at these characters. All they need is one promise or the other from Bola Ahmed Tinubu. They will bury the hatchet. They are not holding the flag of opposition as if that they want to cause any disruption to bring good governance to the people. They are all seeking favors. I looked at them. When the Turaki-led faction had meeting, I saw likes of Jerry Ghana. I saw Adolphus Wabara. Many of them, many of their likes. These are people that should have retired from politics. I don't know what they're studying in politics. Adolphus Wabara, recall who he was, one Senate president. During the 5th Senate, we are in the 10th Senate as we speak today. During the 5th Senate, he was disgraced out of the position as a result of malfeasance. And today, instead of retiring from partisan politics, he's still moving around talking about party politics. Jerry Ghana, former Minister of Information during Obasanjo regime. You can imagine. These people, they are all seeking relevance. Makinde, why he's doing what he's doing is because he was not allowed to nominate a minister of the Federal Republic from Oyo State. He had never wanted the Minister of Power. But they are looking for one political interest or the other. That's why they are doing all these things they're doing. I've not seen sincere opposition disposition. Wike has got his own cake and he is still in PDP. And being in PDP, he has said he's going to work for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and we saw what he did during the area council election in Abuja, where he framed PDAPC. That's his own mantra. And his activities in PDP is just to play the spoiler. And these are the people with his cohorts. Samuel Lanya and so many of them, you want to work with them for what? What are you working? I mean, PDP in essence should be an offshoot of APC. From the look of things, if the president comes and promise, if the president comes out now and promise one thing or the other to these actors, they will all work for his re-election. They are waiting for one thing or the other. Many of them who should be retired by now, waiting for one thing or the other. As we have it currently, PDP, for me, is no more. All these things are distractions. If they go to Supreme Court and probably gets a favorable judgment, they will use it as a bargaining power. Now we have been authenticated by the Supreme Court. They will not name their price for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Take it or leave it. They are not in to contest anything. Once they get the Supreme Court nod, Makinde will name his own price. Bala Muhammad will name his own price. And the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I'm looking at, will be willing to pay the price to have them in his own side. They will be unified. What is separating them at this point in time is not meeting their own prices as we have it. Wike, you've met yours. So having met yours, you can't just cajole all of us, push all of us to the same trajectory when you've been well settled. Settle us the way you settle Wike so that we work for you. That is what PDP is all about now. Settle us the way you settle Wike so we work for you. Once you are mentioned, what are your conditions? You name your conditions, you will see them, they will now be doing what Wike is doing.
So what you're trying to say is that at the end of the day, all of this noise about having the PDP put back together is all the folks.
It's just a host. Anybody telling you that not anything meaningful will come out of it is making a erroneous statement. Why they are doing what they're doing, they want to name their prices. They want to name their prices. They have not been settled the way Wike has been settled. For the fact that Wike has been settled, Wike cannot just come and be pushing all of them that they have to do this way, do this that way, or even transform PDP to be APC. We are settled the way you are settled. People don't understand politics. They don't see politics from this angle. Saminu Turaki can work for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu if and only if his members are well settled. They have prices. It's not about paying their prices. And Mr. President is not willing to pay their prices when they do not pose any threat. He can only pay their price if they pose any threat, if their alliance or association is authenticated by the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court sees them as the authentic PDP. And you imagine how many are they left? Bala Muhammad, just like I said yesterday, is not going for second term. Makinde is not going for second term. And by the time Supreme Court gives them what they want, they will work in alliance with APC in such a way that their successors will not be challenged in their respective states. It will be one of the conditions. Whoever that will succeed them will not be challenged in their respective states. And where they will be promised one thing or the other if they work for their emergence. These are ways. So for people who are listening to us thinking that you are fighting President Bola Ahmed Tinubu with these people, you are making a mistake. These people have their own interests they want to protect. They want to use the court to bargain their own interests. That's what they are interested. Take it anywhere or leave it. Most of these things, I do say them before they happen. But when I say them, you may not understand it. Remember when I said that most of the governors will defect to APC? Remember when I said it? You ask yourself this question: has it not happened? It has happened the way I said. It has happened. Politicians, I have always said, many of them are the same, but they have different approaches of going about their interests. That's the difference between most of these politicians. Different approaches of going about their interests. It's all about their interests.
Tony, on that very day that judgment was delivered by P Court, I saw a video of Samuel Anyanwu and Tamil Turaki, where they were fraternizing, they were shaking each other, laughing, joking, and what have you not. Then later Turaki and co addressed the press saying they were going to go to Supreme Court and challenge the verdict of the appeal court after their lawyers must have studied the judgment. And from what is out there now in the media, that consideration is still there. But yesterday the BOT led by Adolfo Swabara had a meeting yesterday in Abuja. Don't forget that all these meetings have been happening outside the PDP secretariat. Yesterday one happened at the Abuja house of the government of Bauchi State. So during that very meeting, what Wabara was preaching was for people to join forces and see how they can rebuild the party. Perhaps he was talking about, is there any way the two warring factions can sheath their sword and then see how they can work in the interest of building the very party. Then former Senate President yesterday too, talking about Senator Bukola Saraki, also said the same thing. He said, we have to close ranks now and see what we are going to do. And for some PDP members, what they are proposing is that for the fact that the Wike faction of PDP has proposed national convention for this month, some persons are saying that PDP should explore the option of having a unity convention. Some are saying that they should explore the option of having a compromised caretaker committee. What I mean compromise is, some persons are going to come from the faction of Makinde. Some persons are going to come from the faction of US Wike. Looking at where this whole thing is headed, would you advise PDP to take any of the options, or let it be fight to the finish so that whoever is being booted out is booted out? If you want to rebuild, you can rebuild from the scratch.
Franklin, it seems that you do not understand some of the things going on here. What are they rebuilding? Look at Saraki, who has called for closing of ranks. You know, it's very simple. Let us go and meet Tinubu to have a dialogue with him in such a way we give us our own settlement. It's very simple. Than dragging this, it will take much time. There are those who believe that let's drag it to the end when it matters.
But so, Tony, for what you're saying, whether they drag it or don't drag it, for them to be able to get that very attention of the president, you must be able to have control of the party. So they have to choose either of the options if they are going to have control of the party. To be able to negotiate.
You are now making a point. Look at the danger. If you go to the Supreme Court and do not get any authentication, there is nothing for you again. I think likes of the former governor of Kwara State, Bukola Saraki, is telling them, don't stretch this further. If you are not in control of the party, but you are in a way, in a position to get something from the situation now, you can get something from this situation now. If you go to the Supreme Court, two things will happen there. If you get favorable judgment, your stake becomes higher than what it is now. But if you do not get any favorable judgment, you have no stake at all. You get nothing out of it, because at that point you have no control of the party. At this point, you have no control of the party, and Wike faction has no control of the party. So it makes the bargaining window to be well equal. You can get something out of it now. That is the position of Bukola Saraki. I have said it many times. Nobody is talking about building anything. They're not building anything. They want settlements.
So that's what I'm saying.
They're not building anything. They want settlements.
Tony, if you know, when it comes to politics is transactional.
As it is.
That's what they tell you. People who play politics, they say it's transactional. If I give you this, you give me this. Now, whether they call it rebuilding or not, the fact remains that for you to be able to use PDP or any other party for you to transact power, you must have a ground in that very party. You must have something in Jaka. It is only to Ja. So what I'm saying in essence is, looking at that very situation, because this is where it is. Wike wants to take control of the party. Makinde wants to control the party. But whether head or tail, any of the sides has an aim, which is let PDP become a negotiating platform. So for any of them to get this very thing, what is there politically? What is that option that they can also explore now to be able to get whatever they want? Because as it stands now, I don't think many Nigerians are taking PDP as a serious opposition party.
They are not opposition.
People are looking the way of ADC to see if they will be able to scratch anything, in as much as there are some questions hanging around the ability to do that. But for the issue of that very PDP, for the sake of what politics is, what is that thing that the party members could be exploring at this point in time to be able to even have a platform to negotiate power with?
Get to the Supreme Court. If they get to the Supreme Court, and if it works their way, they will now name their price, and Mr. President will be willing to match their price. The only way they can have the control of the party, even when the party has become a negotiating tool, is to get to the Supreme Court. When we get to tell them not to go to the Supreme Court, it means that Wike wants to limit their capacity, limit their stake, for them to have a high stake. And if Wike succeed in appealing to them not to go to the Supreme Court, and it means that they don't even have the control of the party. Even as we speak now, they don't have. So you cannot use it as a bargaining tool when you don't have overriding control of the party. That's the only way.
So what is the end game at this point?
It is interest. That's the end game. Interest.
And so you are saying going to the Supreme Court or not, it doesn't matter, because the PDP as it is, regardless of who is in charge, can be bought over.
It's not can be bought over. PDP is not an opposition. PDP is a bargaining chip, is a negotiating tool.
That's what I'm saying. These people can't be bought over.
Of course,
it hasn't
they
been,
have their price.
Be.
What Makinde wants is my successor. You play no challenge to whoever that will succeed me. And if I work for you, I will be given opportunity to nominate who will be part of your cabinet, and I can as well go for Senate. That is Makinde. Bala Muhammad, the same thing. These are the two governors, and these are people that can bring money for some of these things going on. They are the ones that can fund some of these things, and they can settle the boys later, and they can also settle the grandpas later, because they have the boys, they have the grandpas.
All right.
It's all about interest. They know very well they are not in this 2027 election. They are not in election, and they know very well they may not in any way play anything significant. They want to see how they can use what they have to get what they want. That is the summary of everything.
All right, then we'll take a break now. Attend to some commercials. When we come back, we take a look at some other developments. What do you make of what Sheikh Gumi said yesterday? Wouldn't be the first time we hear him say something like that. But would it have any serious implications this time around? Stick around and find out.
Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
Onitsha ndị nwe ahịa, nke a bụ ụzọ anyị si asị unu daalụ maka ọmarịcha otu afọ nke nzikọrịta ozi. Udala Radio dị otu afọ n'ọnwa Maachị a. N'ọnwa Maachị a niile, Udala nwere onyinye pụrụ iche maka ịgba afọ ọhụrụ a. Ịzụta advert slot abụọ, inwe otu mgbakwunye onyinye n'efu. Ịnụrụ nke ọma, ohere nke mgbasa ozi ahịa, ozi ọbụla maọbụ nke program ịkwụ ụgwọ, nweta ohere abụọ, anyị agbakwunyere gị otu. Nke a bụ ohere ị nwere ime ka ndị Ọnịcha n'obodo ndị ọzọ nụ ma mara maka ahịa gị. Gbata ọsọ ozugbo n'ihi ohere pụrụ iche a malitere ugbu a ma bụrụ nke ga-abịa n'isi njedebe n'ụbọchị nke 31 n'ọnwa Maachị nke afọ a, n'ọnwa mgbakwunye afọ Udala. Maka ndebanye na ajụjụ, kpọọ anyị na 0803-350-4206 maọbụ ịbịa n'ụlọ ọrụ anyị dị n'Ọnịcha na nọmba 5 Okono Street n'okirikiri DMGS Roundabout. Ya bụ inwe ike ịkpọ anyị na 0803-350-4206 maọbụ ịbịa n'ụlọ ọrụ anyị na nọmba 5 Okono Street n'okirikiri DMGS Roundabout Ọnịcha. Udala Radio emeela otu afọ n'ọnwa Maachị a, ọkpọkọpi n'ezie.
Udala Radio 104.7 FM. You're listening to the Polity. Get involved now.
So we understand that Kaduna-based Islamic cleric Sheikh Gumi Ahmad Gumi, actually that's his full name, Sheikh Ahmad Gumi, has alleged that the federal government is aware of the identities and locations of terrorists in Nigeria. He spoke in a recent interview where he was asked about his role in dialoguing with terrorists and if the federal government lacked the technology or power to find them. He said the government knows where these terrorists are. They know them by the name, and he said he doesn't go alone to negotiate. He goes with the police, the military, and other security agencies. And like I said earlier, I wouldn't be the first. He said he would go to the emirs. In fact, when they get to the forests, he even said they went with women into the bush. Quite interesting. He said he would support the indigenous people of Biafra, as well as Boko Haram terrorists and bandits operating in the country if they are ready to lay down their arms. He also said the groups must be ready to come to a round table and negotiate with the Nigerian government to earn his support. He also said dialogue can bring peace, and we are men of peace. Even IPOP, which wants to secede, they are ready to put down their arms, come to a round table to discuss. I'm ready and would support them. All we don't want is violence. So Tony, Gumi's not saying anything different in my estimation. If you follow the trajectory of Ahmad Gumi over the years, we've seen videos of him with these people. And when he said the government know them by their names and locations, for a moment I actually thought he was actually being open about what this entire thing actually is. Because you cannot tell me that the same people that you have negotiations with, which governor was it that was seen in a video having a conversation with them? He went to see them to negotiate, and these people came fully armed. If you remember the video I'm talking about, Tony, they came fully armed, had their AK-47s hung on their shoulders during a meeting with a state governor. And so the point is, whatever it is Gumi is saying is the truth. And this talk about not having the technology to locate them, I find it a very silly contradiction. It shouldn't have come up in the first place, because we've seen videos. You know these people. You go to negotiate with them. Before Gumi, there was Mama Boko Haram. She was also there during the whole negotiation thing, and over time, that's that she even became part of the whole kidnapping thing. She started to hide these people, hide their guns, started to keep money for them, and eventually she was arrested. And so many people have asked this question: why is Gumi still roaming a free man? If you go to negotiate with these people, surely you can lead us to these people. But again, another very critical question: the people who lead these negotiations, the governors, the representatives, the police, the military, why are they not putting a permanent stop to the menace?
Well, I think it's a long one. And we've seen the industry of terrorism, and Gumi said quite a lot of things. Let's really look at some of the things Gumi said. Because if you look at it, some of them could be true, that those who sensationalized, trying to make something out of it. Well, the government knows these terrorists and possibly know where they are. When he says that the government knows every terrorist, that's the word, by name and location. And he went further to say that he do not, the way, let me quote him, I do not go to the terrorists alone. I call the police, the security, everybody. I will go to the MS of that place. I even went with women into the bush. That's according to Gumi. That means that he does not go to the terrorists alone. He goes with the people he mentioned. And he went further to say that he had no contact with bandits since 2021. If he was actually, because he made these very statements in one of the interviews, that was in December 2025. And he went further to say that he had no contact with these terrorists. So if you have no contact with them, how then do you meet them in the bush? Because it requires contact for somebody to meet somebody. And he questioned, have you seen the military defeat guerrilla fighters? He was asking the interviewer whether he had ever, or he has ever seen military defeat guerrilla fighters. That it is not all about fighting people who are in guerrilla warfare. Well, the truth remains that Gumi is in this game. We talked about Mama Boko Haram, and we knew how her own ended during the time of Jonathan. She was deployed. She was the middle person between the government and these people. I have said it many times that we are the one fueling terrorism, banditry. We are the one fueling it. Everybody. What do I mean by that? The terrorism or ransom, or that's what we call ransom economy, payment of ransom. And we are told that between July 2023 and June 2024, over 1.04 billion ransom was actually paid to kidnappers in Nigeria. Between such a period, we, a criminal group, demanded over 10.99 billion naira during the same period, and the amount that was paid. The kidnapping for ransom and all other brigandages, we've seen such industry, though it's part of the shadow economy we have always maintained, or we have always talked about. It is thriving in this country, and there are many people following. Institutions are not working. Government agencies are not working. Those who should be fighting this, they are not working. There is no major deployment of technology, the technological tools to go after these people. The claim by Gumi should be investigated, that government knows these people by name and by location. And when government will tell us that they don't know these people, like Toji Bello, There was a time, I remember the former chief of army staff was telling them, get him life or dead. Does it mean that government knows his location where the chief of army staff was urging troops to get him life or dead? It's a mix of truth and fake news on the part of Gumi. Gumi, was it not a few days ago, Gumi was asking the government to have dealings with Turkey, Iran, that they should do away with United States of America. They should not allow America to subject to it on how to handle terrorism, how to handle this. Gumi is an interested party. If not for terrorism, many of us may not have known him. Why do we know him? Why is it that his name keeps coming out from time to time? It's because of terrorism. If terrorism goes, Gumi business will also end. His business is managing terrorism, appealing to government to use non-kinetic method to settle these boys, to give them money, calling for amnesty where they will not surrender their arms, because most times we've seen governors made these people. There was a time, former, I think it was Zamfara State Governor, where he told them to lay down your AK-47 and have one cattle. I criticized it at that point. I said, this is another booby trap. And it happened the way I said it.
And he said it himself. It didn't yield any.
But Gumi was the one of those that campaigned and advocated for that. One thing about Gumi is, whenever he advocates for anything and it falls out, or it turns out, he will tell you he didn't do it the way he wanted it. The idea is using this aphorism. Have you seen any military in the world defeat guerrilla fighters? We have seen, yeah, of course, if you go to some countries, it happened in Bangladesh, and there was another country where it happened. We've seen guerrilla fighters being defeated. They are rebel fighters. So Gumi can't just come out and say that, have you seen any military defeat guerrilla? They have been defeated over time.
Tony, he said that claim made by Gumi should be negotiated.
Investigated.
Okay, it should be investigated.
Yeah, that's what I said.
And from what he said each of negotiations that he was involved in, government was aware. Likewise, security agencies who were also aware. So this investigation, who is going to carry it out? Because since yesterday I was expecting that the presidency will make some reactions, maybe issue a statement trying to clarify what Gumi said, or even the police make clarification about what he said. I haven't seen any of such statements up to this very moment. So who is going to investigate the claims that Gumi made? Because if you look at it from the other way around, so from what he said, if what he said is the way it is, it appears that we have not become serious when you talk about fighting insecurity, fighting Boko Haram or fighting banditry. Because if truly government knows locations and knows these very people by names and have people who go to interface with them, what has stopped us from taking decisive actions against some of these very persons who have been arrowheads in the issue of terrorism and banditry?
Well, it's one of the things government has not done, and it's one of the things they keep failing. There are many arrowheads of this industry. In this industry, you have group managing director, you have the board members, you have the directors, you also have the executive managers, and you also have the laborers, the workers. This industry is well structured. Believe me, this industry, this terrorism, banditry, and ransom industry, well structured. Let me take a mind back when Gumi, in fact, one of the most popular negotiations he undertook, that was sometime January 2021, where he went to Sabongari or Sabongarin Yadi Forest in Giwa local government area of Kaduna State. He looked around, he went there with some policemen, military, as he said, more than 600 armed bandits and their commanders who were in that very forest. And he asked Gumi was saying that he went there to convince them to surrender weapons and stop attacks, but nothing came out of that. He said that he went with police. That was the very first time we saw a video of Gumi being in the company of this armed terrorist. I remember again another negotiation with bandits This one, I think it was sometime around, if I can still recall, within that period again, where Gumi went to Zamfara forest and met different armed groups. Another one, there was another negotiation. Remember the Greenfield University kidnapping in 2021, where some students were kidnapped. Gumi was the first to open negotiation and communication with these kidnappers. According to him, he went further to say that he helped to secure the release of 27 abducted students after negotiation. The business is, you do the kidnapping, you do the attack, I open the communication, I open the negotiation, I ensure that you get the money, and I have my own court, my own commission, and the business is concluded. And we go for another attack. Another attack could be kidnapping, it could be abduction, it could be anything. Once that happens, I will open the communication channel, and at the end of the day, money will exchange hand. From what you are paid, I will get my own commission. That's what Gumi has been doing. Remember the kidnapping in Niger State, Kagara students kidnapping, if you remember. It was the same Gumi that opened communication for the release of the students involved. If you recall the Katsina peace meeting where Gumi participated in local peace talk with bandits in several Katsina communities, and you will see him many times after these communications, he will tell the government to render amnesty the way it did for Niger Delta, and we have criticized that. I'm wondering why Gumi has not been arrested as we speak today. He knows the whereabouts of these bandits. He knows where they. He knows everything, and he goes around freely.
So, Tony, if they get to arrest Gumi now, what becomes of him? Will government be able to provide all the evidences needed to nail him that he has a sinister purpose? Why am I saying this? There is always a negotiator between government and terrorist organizations, not just in Nigeria, but even outside Nigeria. We have seen that play out. But we are going to now, if people have been saying, Gumi should be arrested. Yes, if he gets arrested, will government be able to get evidence to pin down to him that this man has been benefiting from terrorism? Why am I asking this? We know the story of Tukomano, who acted as a negotiator between terrorists and victims, especially those victims during the Abuja Kaduna train attack. We can record that very crisis. Later, that Tukomano was accused of working with terrorists other than just mediating. And in September 2022, he was arrested in Egypt, while he was traveling, and he was brought back to Nigeria. And government charged him to court. Talking about the DSS, they charged him to court. The issue they raised was that he received money from terrorists during ransom negotiation, and they were also saying that in as much as he helped to deliver ransom payment to these kidnappers, he supports terrorism financing. But what we are going to now is that this case has been in court for a long time, and as we speak, government has not been able to nail this very man and be able to convict him. So can government actually put up something against Gumi as we speak?
Well, you mentioned the man involved. Remember the case of Mama Boko Haram, and recall that she was convicted not for terrorism anyway, for multiple fraud cases. I recall very well that the Borno State High Court sentenced her and two others to 10 years imprisonment for obtaining about 40 million by false pretense. I recall this one was, at first, she posed to be an activist and became famous for claiming she could mediate with Boko Haram fighters, and she went on to do that. At the point government involved her, that was how her own started. And Gumi is doing the same thing the woman did over many years. But the woman, remember how she usually used hijab to cover her face, cover everything. I think her name Aisha Kali Wakil. I think that's her name, if I can still recall. We've seen many people profiting from terrorism industry, and any profiter is as good, is as guilty as a terrorist himself, no matter the role the person plays.
The question Franklin is asking is, We see the roles on the surface, but like you always say, who alleges must prove. Is there proof? Traceable proof. Proof that we can actually lay hands on to convict Gumi. Just like you mentioned in the case of Chukwuemeka, Chukwuemeka's case is still indecisive as we speak, and that is because of lack of concrete evidence. Do we have concrete evidence that Gumi is a part of this, whatever thing it is?
That is what intelligence does. What do we have intelligence for? I think even Gumi has faulted Nigerians' intelligence, saying, where is the intelligence? Chukwuemeka, you are talking about, remember his homes were raided in Kaduna, and so many items were discovered. These things were taken from him, even the phones. So you want to tell me that some of the contacts he had with the Boko Haram and their fighters and some transactions that happened that we cannot use it to convict, it becomes a question of who is prosecuting. The prosecuting team, are they doing diligent work aiming to convict him, or they are just there for political reasons?
Well,
it's a different ball game. The case I'm talking about is, if you look at Gumi's hands, of course, his hands are in many of these things. You may need to have concrete evidence to just get him convicted, but you don't allow him to move around the way he goes and the way he does his own thing, giving these people morale. He's giving them morale. He's a morale booster to Boko Haram fighters, these fighters. He has been giving them every sense that they are right in doing what they are doing.
I think we actually put the nail in the coffin in the first place by starting this negotiation through whoever, in whichever means, using whatever as a substitute: cattle, money, weapons, drugs, whatever it is that was ever given to these people, fueled the madness that we are having today, and unfortunately is spilling into different parts of the country. I think it was in your state yesterday that young people protested with dead bodies of people who've been caught up in this thing. And while we have a different kind of militia operating up north, the insecurity that has spread out in different parts of the country is something that calls for great concern, and any well-meaning Nigerian would hope that someday we can actually have some respite. Go through the news and we see little about people being killed unjustly for no just reason, for simply being Nigerians. But then that's it on that matter. We're going to quickly talk about what's happening with the president asking for 100,000 CNG kits released to Tony. What do you make of this, especially in the wake of what we have in terms of the cost of fuel? We also understand that it's now $88 per barrel. While that is supposed to bring some sort of respite, we also know that it is still going to keep the cost of fuel high. I mean, moving from 800 to 1,000 plus, a lot of Nigerian households are shrinking, have so many issues, making this even harder for people to bear. So what do you think about this move to roll out CNG kits? Is this the way to go? The timing, is it even sensible in the first place, going by the fact that this should have been done a long time ago if we really meant to convert?
I think it's a long overdue. We have talked about this. I remember when subsidy was removed, that was one of the things Mr. President said that his government was aiming to achieve. Of course, he talked about rolling out CNG buses, the CNG conversion centers, the keys and everything. And this over getting to it's about how many years?
Almost 3
years. And we've not seen a concrete action. We've not seen a concrete development in that sense. Of course, we have this one they call Pi CNG, and that's the case in question. Well, I don't know, because it has been what it is. Nigerians have seen the promises of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, some of them coming, some of them not coming, as we have them. Whether this one will be something we will take seriously is another thing, because you must demonstrate seriousness first.
Is there really sense in this move? You are dispatching 100,000 kits. Who is going to convert? How many conversion engineers do we have spread out across the country? How many conversion plants do we have? And then, how many fuel stations? How many filling stations, rather, that's the word. How many filling stations have what it takes to dispense CNG?
Well, CNG is very cheap compared to petrol.
We understand it's very cheap, but we need such an infrastructure in place before we shift.
We need that.
CNG.
We need that. And most fuel stations can as well sell CNG. If we have the proper architecture, proper structure in place, they can do that. But the question is, Many of them may not want to invest into that when they have not seen the viability of the business. Most times you have to see the viability of something before you invest into that, and that's where government comes in. One standard cubic meter of cubic meter of CNG is about 380 naira, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, yes, that's just the price. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm correct with the price. Standard cubic meter is about 380 naira, and then that tells you that about 380 for about 0.73 kg. Of course, it will go a long way and it will turn around things. But how many people will be willing to key into this? There are some other hazardous effect or hazardous consequences. There are many people who do not buy the idea of CNG. Many Nigerians have not even accepted it as an alternative. There should be a campaign for general acceptability of CNG as an alternative, and government must demonstrate seriousness in rolling out not just these kits but the CNG stations. We must bring in the private sector into this, no doubt. I have not seen that work. The relationship between the private sector and government has not been smooth, has not been what it should be. There are things government must provide enabling environment, provide enabling resources, and allow the private sector to pilot it. That's what government does in most places in the world. But here, I don't know what it is. I don't know what the problem is. I don't know what the case is, the situation is. There are times why some of these things do not go as expected is because private sector participation is limited. They don't get well involved, and government don't even carry them along as expected. It will be an alternative, a credible alternative for sure, that will reduce the problems we are having or problems that surround us. But one thing is, if all of us go into CNG, what happens to revenue government makes from the sale of petrol? Yes, it could be one of the reasons they may not want to
we all know that
out.
all of us cannot.
Okay, let me add something, because apart from the issue of sensitization, which I think government has even failed totally in that very area, it can be taken to Nigerians that they need to embrace CNG, but we hardly had any kind of programs on sensitization on how people can embrace this. Then you talk about that shortage of the conversion kits. Like government
conversion personnel.
Yes, government on its own that's supposed to have put out this very infrastructure. We have seen government lacking in that very area. But where I have most concern is on what is government doing to ensure that the conversion becomes affordable for Nigerians. I can recall the last time government talked about what it would cost to do this very conversion. It was on the high side, and I was asking myself, for a commercial bus driver who might want to convert his vehicle, which is petrol driven, to CNG driven, and you ask him to convert like 400,000 naira to do the conversion, how many of them would be able to do that? So if we have had enough sensitization going on where it becomes something in the mind of Nigerians, so if there's now something like a subsidy on how people can get this in at a subsidized rate, of course that is the only way to go, because by the time people have the chance to do this very conversion at a very subsidized rate, you see people who would like to key into it. But when but when you expect people, Nigerians, to spend huge amount of money to do conversion, how many of us are going to do it? So the thing is this, I haven't seen that intentionality. Now, because I want to give you an example with what is happening now with electric cars and electric motorcycles. I can recall that when it was initially mooted, many Nigerians were skeptical. They were asking questions. If we're going to buy electric cars or electric motorcycles, how are you going to manage them in Nigeria? Do we have power supply for us to charge and what have you not? But gradually people are keying into it. Here in Onitsha, on daily basis, you see a good number of persons who have keyed into purchasing electric driven motorcycles, and they're enjoying it in as much as we don't have that supply. So the thing is, once that intentionality comes and government begins to drive this with every commitment, we're going to see progress. But it seems like government just brought the initiative, went back to its cocoon, and now that we have price of petrol rising because of the war in Iran, and government now saying they should push out conversion kits. When you push out the kit, what happens? Is it just to push out the kit alone? So what happened to other subsidiary needs and requirements to make it happen?
And just like you pointed out earlier on, because under the Presidential Compressed Natural Gas Initiative, the government has rolled out some incentives like the conversion kits for buses, taxis, tricycles, they can receive the kicks for free. But you mentioned something very important, not just the kicks, because for you to convert a 4-cylinder engine is about 1.3 million. For you to convert about 6-cylinder engine is about 1.5 million, or 8-cylinder engines. But by the time you provide some of these kicks and then it narrows down to the labor, the workman, it could go as low as 300,000, 400,000. But the question is, how many people will be able to afford 300 to 400,000, even when these keys are given to them free? And how many of these keys will you give free? We have over 11 million commercial vehicles, buses in Nigeria. Now the question is, are you going to roll out over 11 million, over 15 million of these keys? You find out that you may not even have the capacity. You know, I've talked about bringing in the private sector into this, and where situations where you may not pay at once. If you convert yours, you may pay on installments, you may pay gradually within a period of a year, where it will be structured and it will not affect your business. We need to have some of these plans on the table, carefully detailed. I'm not seeing that.
Something would get the careful details. So break now, attend to some commercials. Keep it locked. The phone lines will be open shortly.
You're listening to Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
Quality bread, Wendy's bread, for your family breakfast. Wendy's bread, I'll pack it on the yellow. Wendy's bread, mama, papa, they like Wendy's bread, it's on the Wendy's bread, even children, they like Wendy's bread, Wendy's bread, Wendy's bread, you get it better, tasty, we go sweet your belly. Wendy's bread, Wendy's your body, Wendy's bread, tasty bread. You can contact us on our official address, Second Business Park, Enugu Road, GRA, beside Samisha, Anambra State. We also have another branch at St. Michael Plaza at Tani Road. Also contact us on 070-1149-1571. Wendy's bread, your tasty bread. Wendy's bread.
Mama Mirinezo, Mama Nacha, Best Aluminium, Obuya Wezilo.
Na Best Aluminium ọ bụghị naanị ihe eji akụchi elu ụlọ ka anyị na-arụ, kama anyị na-enye ụlọ gị nchekwa chọọ ya mma n'ụdịrị pụrụ iche. Anyị nwere stone coated roofing sheets, color coated roofing sheets. Ọ bụrụ sọ nke a, anyị na-arụzikwa elu nke ụlọ mebiri emebi, kụchie ya ọhọrọ nke ọhụrụ maka ụlọ ebe obibi gị ma ụlọ ọrụ gị. Anyị na-enyekwa ngwongwo eji esi nri nke ga-eme ka usekwu gị chaba n'anya. Waa chai, kedu ụdịrị aṅụrị ị ga-enwe ma ụlọ ọrụ gị na-egbuke ka kpakpando ma maa mma nke ukwuu. Nke a bụkwa Best Aluminium Manufacturing Group Limited na-ekwe gị taa. Egbula oge ka ị na-achọ ka mmiri tabido gị, chọrọ anyị bịa na 30/32 Anyika Street, Awado Obosi, Anambra State. Kpọọ 08064162374 maọbụ 0706-059-6203.
O nwere keke windscreen pụtara ọhụụ, ịzụrụ ya tinye na keke gị, ịbara okwu ụlọ. Asị m gịnị? Ịbara okwu ụlọ maka na ọda awa bụ unbreakable windscreen aka ọlụ ndị China. Ọsọ gị tụọ ya okwute, kụọ ya hama, inwegodi accident, ọda awa. Gị bụ onye keke, ọ bụrụ na windscreen gị wara awa, mee ngwa dozie ya tupu anya gọọmenti erute n'ebe ị nọ. Ngwa jee n'ebe ọbụla a na-ere akụrụngwa keke ka ịzụta ọda awa windscreen, maọbụ ịbịa na Method 105 Upper New Market Road, Onitsha. Ọ dị nso na DMGS Roundabout na ncherịta Udo Best Filling Station. Ekwentị anyị 08032933719. ọda awa ugebe kwesịrị ntụkwasị obi.
Onitsha ndị nwe ahịa, nke a bụ ụzọ anyị si asị unu daalụ maka ọmarịcha otu afọ nke nzikọrịta ozi. Udala Radio dị otu afọ n'ọnwa Maachị a. n'ọnwa Maachị a niile Udala nwere onyinye pụrụ iche maka ịgba afọ ọhụrụ a. Ịzụta advert slot abụọ inwe otu mgbakwunye onyinye n'efu. Nụ ịnụrụ nke ọma, ohere nke mgbasa ozi ahịa, ozi ọbụla maọbụ nke program ịkwụ ụgwọ, nweta ohere abụọ anyị agbakwunyere gị otu. Nke a bụ ohere ị nwere ime ka ndị Ọnịcha n'obodo ndị ọzọ nụ ma mara maka ahịa gị. Gbata ọsọ ozugbo n'ihi ohere ọ pụrụ iche a malitere ugbu a ma bụrụ nke ga-abịa n'isi njedebe n'ụbọchị nke 31 n'ọnwa Maachị nke afọ a, n'ọnwa mgbakwunye afọ Udala. Maka ndebanya na ajụjụ kpọọ anyị na 08033504206 maọbụ ịbịa n'ụlọ ọrụ anyị dị n'Ọnịcha na nọmba 5 Okono Street n'okirikiri DMGS Roundabout. Ya bụ inwe ike ịkpọ anyị na 08033504206 maọbụ ịbịa n'ụlọ ọrụ anyị na nọmba 5 Okono Street n'okirikiri DMGS Roundabout Ọnịcha. Udala Radio emeela otu afọ n'ọnwa Maachị a, ọkpọkọpi n'ezie.
Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic. You're listening to The Polity. Get involved now.
Go ahead now and join the conversation. Put a call across to 0803-221-6973 or 0803-827-6694. We are live on Facebook, Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Drop your comment right under the video. Let's hear you. You have 2 minutes. Be as objective. Be as objective as possible and go straight to the point. I think the network is not very friendly, but we will try again. 0803-221-6973. Okay, you need to try to reconnect. I wouldn't know where this problem is from, but let's call in the engineers to fix that. There are 2 phone lines here. Please, I don't know which one this is. 0803-827-6694 is another number you can call. Okay, it's still happening, so I am searching. This line is off. I don't know which line it is you called now. Just call the second one, okay? 0803-827-6694. Those are the numbers to call. Sincere apologies if you're not able to reach us on phone. I saw the phone lines beeping, but unfortunately, we're having some technical issues here. So please head on to our Facebook, Udala Radio 104.7 FM. That's the handle, Udala Radio 104.7 FM on Facebook, and drop your comment. Okay? Udala Radio 104.7, and drop your comment. And let's see. Hello? And drop your comment there. With our phones.
Okay, so I think for now, let's get to our Facebook page and see some of the reactions we have there before we get to fix the issue with the phone line. So we begin with this very post from Dr. Miss Molebra from Owerimo State, and she says, our democracy, ours is a democracy predicated more on strong people rather than strong institutions. Criticism is a form of support. It is in criticizing constructively that we spur government to action. No government can make meaningful progress in the absence of vibrant and valuable opposition. There is no way everybody can belong to one political party. If we do, who will then question the government of the day and hold it accountable? Who will check the excesses of the ruling party and act firmly on behalf of the masses? Fight for our interests and grievances. Let the kite perch and the eagle perch too. So another story, or another another reaction from Eke Gunners. Thank you for following us, Eke Gunners. Also Francis Omaganamani from Amagunzi in Enugu says, a renowned oil producing nation like Nigeria shouldn't be battling of fuel price hike and scarcity. This narrative must be corrected. I doubt if we'll have any scarcity now. I think the issue is about the price, and because of that very increase in price, so some persons are doing what they call precautionary marketing. And Zequest Celestine says, when you come to APC, your sins are forgiven. Have you taken time to ask yourself what this really means? I have always known that kidnapping is the business of shady, greedy politicians, and that is why it's not gonna stop anytime soon. Just that Simbad one happens to be open, but more are still going to be unfolded. And he said good morning, thank you for being there. Justice JB, thank you for following us and the kind words. Irene Z from Inoma says, it's obvious that the leaders of this country are not honest in making this country to work. In a system of government core democracy without a viable opposition, it is as good as dictatorship. PDP, LP, and other strong opposition political parties are gone. The masses are left with just one option. Shegumi is right in his statement. Nigerian government knows the terrorists, their names, their houses, their wives, girlfriends, but they are complicit in addressing the issues. All these revelations and interviews are as a result of fear of America and Israeli intervention. And he said America should please come to the help of the ordinary citizens. Gregory Thaddeus says he's listening for Masaba. He says there is an angle to this Gumi issue that has not been mentioned. If those actions he has carried out were to be done by a southeasterner, he would have been jailed long ago. Terrorism and terrorism may end in Nigeria when a president like Donald Trump emerges in the country. Okay, so Tony, let me put out this very question. This issue of negotiating for terrorists or bandits, is Gumi doing it on his own? Like, let me volunteer to do this, or he's doing this with the backing of the government?
Well, if you ask if he's doing it on his own, or whether he's doing it on the backing of the government, I think he's doing it on his own, but he may have informed some officers or officials of government. We don't have legislation on banditry, terrorism. What legislation do we have? The idea of legislation to guide everybody, the do's and don'ts. A country like Nigeria, battling with insecurity, terrorism, banditry, has no piece of legislation guiding situations like this. I know we have anti-terrorism and prohibition, we have that very law, situation where people have been kidnapped, people have been abducted. What is expected from the state government, it should be in the law, the new legislation I'm making and proposing. What the communities, the locals, everybody should do it, so that if anybody goes on to start opening communication channel, the law will have a way to punish the person as being a complicit. You don't leave things the way they are, where everybody can do anything he likes, where such situation comes up, so meaning people would like to take advantage of such situations, where people are not either the terrorists or in any way seem to be overtly aiding and abetting terrorism. Where it happens, what is expected of people around that area? We don't have such legislation.
So what can we leverage for us to be able to narrow down to some of these very sponsors and the conspirators with the terrorists, or even kidnappers and other armed robbers? I'm saying this is not just it's not just limited to Gumi, because if you look deeper, sometimes you hear the confessions of people who are arrested for one crime or the other, and they tell you, this person did this or this person did that. Or in some of the cases, you see where the mastermind of maybe kidnapping is arrested, and in an attempt to question him, one thing leads to the other, and the mastermind is killed, so that all that evidence are going to disappear. So is there anything we can leverage in terms of technology we have already, or the ones we can borrow, infrastructure, to be able to have our eyes on some of these people who could be connected in the issues of crime?
There are so many things we can leverage on. There are so many we can leverage on. We don't even have operating manual, guidelines as we may have in other countries. There are things other countries do, but we don't even do in any way much of things expected of us. You are talking about the sponsors, you are talking about those who are accomplices, you are talking about these people. And when we delve further, we understand that there could be third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, or eighth party to this. Technology, of course, the only technology we usually deploy is phone technology, forensic analytics of different phone lines for communication. Outside phone communication, what other technology do we have?
There are so many other types of technology that are expected. I mean, look at the fact that what was it that was talked about that all the time in terms of satellites, in terms of tracking, monitoring, and all of that. And the question has always been around investing all of these monies used for negotiations into, would I say, buffering our security tech.
I am thinking we may invest in land sensors, mountain sensors in some of our places.
What would it cost?
I don't know. We've not invested in fighting this thing because the money usually we spend will be to procure more AK-47, procure aircraft.
You don't shoot people you don't see.
We don't invest in technology. I'm talking about these sensors. It will trigger you to know that these people are there. And once you have this trigger that they are there, you know what to do immediately. We can plant in these sensors. That is what is running. And where you know they don't operate in vacuum. They do not operate in vacuum. And technology has made it so easy for you to combat guerrilla warfare. It has made it so easy. Newer technologies are coming. We need to invest in technology. But the most important thing is that I've not seen that sincerity of purpose. Somebody said that because US is filing pressure on the country, that's why we are making this move. Before US, were we making these moves? Before Trump pressure, were we making this move? It tells them, because this issue of terrorism has political angle. I will stop on this. It has political angle.
All right then, Franklin. The phone lines, I'm not sure there's any. Let's see.
Hello?
Yeah, hello. Good morning.
Yeah, hello, good morning.
Good morning.
So let me go and let us speak to Monica. See, in all your discussions every morning, it shows that Nigeria as a country is still in a deep ignorance. But pretending to be walking or even running. What we need to start doing in Nigeria is totally oriented
kids before our deceitful prayer will start to work. Because the prayer we offer in Nigeria is a deceit. We have to start raising good, morally sound children. That is what will make tomorrow better. If not so, I don't know. We have looked at the people that are senators today and federal House of Rep members because of P2D. They never thank them, but they voted for party that P2D belong. What are they doing today that God is in Nigeria that we used to receive ourselves? We need total reorientation. You have to start from home. Thank you so much.
All right, Emeka, thank you. Sincere apologies. Let's try again and see if we can manage this. Hello. You should try to reconnect, and hopefully before the end of today we'll get this fixed immediately after the show. So let's see if we can attend to one or two more calls before we say our byes. Good morning.
Good morning, please.
Good morning.
Yeah. Okay, I'm not hearing from your end. Hello, good morning, please.
Yes.
Good morning.
We can hear you.
Okay, sure. That's right. Okay. Michael was calling from Udala in the state.
Okay, Michael, go ahead, please.
Okay, yeah, sure. I'm a first caller anyway, and I've been listening to your program directly. So what I'm trying to say is pretty short, actually. This NIN, National Identification Number, which was initiated to tell and control and contain the situation of insecurity and other vices in society, it has not worked. And I don't know what reasons the analysis you can give now about it. Dr. Ten is quite knowledgeable, but you might tell us what really happened on that particular issue. Thanks a lot. I have an amazing day, please.
All right, then. Thank you for joining us today. Let's hear you. Good morning.
Oh, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Yeah, good morning to you, Dr. Tony Becky.
You're welcome.
Franklin Ebuka, good morning to you, my brother. Yes, voice of Wiza Sat Masaba.
Go ahead, Weezy.
What Ahmed Gumi said is not a new thing to many of us. We all know about these things. We all know that there is this link between the Nigerian government and the insecurity bedeviling Nigeria. But, unfortunately, every year and then, every 4 market days, we have the president coming out to tell you that he's giving fresh directives all the time. He's giving fresh directives to security officials to go after those perpetrating insecurity in Nigeria. After giving his fresh directives, the same thing keeps on going on because the right direction that is supposed to be followed is not being done. It's not being followed. Nothing of that nature is being followed. But all the time, the president is going to come out to give fresh directives. In fact, I think the new name of Tinubu should be Mr. Fresh Directives. Because if I'm not mistaken, a few days ago, he also gave fresh directives. After giving fresh directives, the same thing continues going on. That's unfortunate. But look at the way people have been killed. Names have been mentioned. The people that have been sponsored, that have been offended as being sponsoring the terrorism happening in the country. The names are out there. The United Arab Emirates has given out the names. Even new names have been given out under his administration. Nothing is being done. They are not being arrested. They are not being apprehended. They are not being investigated. Nothing of that nature. Now we're talking about Ahmed Gumi. Ahmed Gumi cannot be investigated. Not talking about being indicted or being arrested, because it's obvious that he's in the good book. That is the reason why you always see him hanging out with different politicians in government. Not because they can't do anything to him, but because they don't want to do anything to him. But if it's all these activists that are always speaking against some of the things that are being done by the government.
Should be rounding off now. Thank you.
I'm going to round up. But if it's all about, going after these people, they're going to go after them. If it's all about going after IPOB, they'll go after them.
All right, thank you.
Are everywhere killing people.
Thank you. I'm sorry, we have to let you go. But Frank, quickly, let's round up.
Okay, so Basil Ugu says, on the issue of Sheikh Ahmed Gumi, the government should address his claims directly. If what he's saying about knowing the identities of bandits is not true, then government authorities should come out clearly and debunk with facts. Gumi has been consistent in his statements over time, and many Nigerians want transparency on this matter. Silence or avoidance only raises more question.
All right, Tony, your final word.
Well, we are going to see how the CNG case will be rolled out. Just like we've said during the analysis, government should show seriousness, demonstrate eagerness to ensure that these problems Nigerians do pass from time to time. These things are really put to stop.
All right, thank you. Franklin?
Well, if actually we are going to change the country, the toga should be to walk the talk. If not, just like moving in circles all the time.
Absolutely, I totally agree. We need to be able to walk the talk. Thank you, Tony, for your wonderful analysis today. Thank you, Franklin, for being here. The Polity is going to make a return 9:15 a.m. tomorrow, down to 11. Until then, I am Chisom Chinedu. See you around at 12:25 on the Cherry Box.
You're listening to Udala Radio 104.7 FM.